with I am an introvert and I can be a leader, Varnika Vijay.
An introvert once said, "Don't underestimate me because I'm quiet. I know more than I say, I think more than I speak, and I observe more than you know." Good evening, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. When I was 10 years old, I went for a school trip for the very first time. And when I was packing my bags, I packed my shoes, my clothes, some toiletries, some food, but along with it, I also packed two of my most favorite things: my notepad and my pen. But for the very first time, I took out my notepad and pen to just write some of my thoughts. The coolest girl in the group came up to me and asked me, why was I being so reserved, so antisocial? And so I put my notepad and pen away in my handbag and did not look at it for the rest of the trip. Because of this experience and many other experiences I had in my life, which constantly gave me a message that somehow being introverted or quiet was not necessarily the right way to go, I started to portray myself as an extrovert. And I'm sure the introverts in this room can relate to that, because that's exactly what many introverts do. But when it comes to creativity or to productivity or leadership, we want introverts to be doing what they do best. A third to a half of the world population identifies themselves as introverts. And so, if we don't let introverts be the way they are, they become subject to this deep-rooted bias in our societies that just leads to a colossal waste of talent. To understand this bias more clearly, I want you all to first understand what really introversion means. Susan Cain, the world's advocate for introverts, in a book titled Quiet, explains that introversion is not equivalent to shyness. Introversion, extroversion is really just about how you respond to stimulation. So extroverts really crave for large amounts of social stimulation, whereas introverts feel they're most alive, they're most capable, they're most at peace in quieter, low-key environments. According to Susan Cain, really the key for all of us to bring out our A game is to put ourselves in the zone of stimulation that is right for us. But that's where the societal biases come in. All the major institutions in today's day and age, schools, colleges, workplaces, universities, are made for extroverts and for their needs of lots of stimulation. The whole idea behind this constant group work, open plan offices, children sitting around pods of desks, gives absolutely zero consideration to the needs of introverts, for their need of privacy, for their need of working alone. A lot of the times, children who like to go off by themselves or people who like to work alone are often referred to as problem cases. Research suggests that teachers in schools report and believe that an ideal student is an extroverted child, even though studies have proven that often introverts get better grades and are more knowledgeable. In workplaces, if you put a group of people in a meeting, the group tends to follow the opinions of the most loudest, most charismatic, most dominant person. And yet researchers have looked at this, and there's absolutely no correlation between being the best talker and having the best ideas. But because of this short-sightedness, this tendency, introverts are routinely passed over leadership roles. And that's a real problem, because an interesting piece of research from Adam Grant at Wharton School suggests that introverts as leaders are more careful, are less likely to take outsized risk, and because of their very behavioral traits for which they're often criticized for, of being quiet and not feeling the need to be the center of attraction at all times, when they are managing engaged and proactive employees, they often let them run with their ideas. One of the other advantages of introverts as leaders is that they're extraordinary problem solvers. This once again comes from their very core traits that has them sitting still, reflecting more, their appetite for solitude. For centuries, we have known about the ethereal power of solitude. Seekers like Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, scientists like Darwin, Einstein, spent days and nights alone. They went off to the lonely mountains, they went off to the wilderness, where they had their discoveries, their epiphanies, which they then brought back and shared with the rest of the world. At this point, I want to make this really clear that none of this is to say that extroverts can't be great leaders, or we should all go to the wilderness and never come back, or group work should be completely abolished. But what's really needed is for introverts to have more freedom, to just be themselves. What's needed is a much better balance between the two types. And I'd like to cite a very successful example here. The two Steves. Self-described introvert Steve Wozniak, who spent days and nights alone in his cubicle and invented the first Apple computer, who then famously came together with the dazzling showman who brought Apple computers to the world. Ladies and gentlemen, charisma is not about how much energy you have. It's not about how loud you can speak. It's about how much you're willing to devote yourself to your cause. And if it's all of it, you have charisma. You have leadership capacity. And so tonight, I want to leave you all with some final messages. If you are an introvert or know an introvert, please just let them be the way they are. It's not a condition that needs to be treated. And to you, the introverts in this room, I want you all to have a very good look inside your treasured hidden spaces. Your handbags, your notepads, your notebooks, your minds, your computers. Introverts have a tendency to very carefully guard their thoughts, their opinions, their ideas, their unique solutions to the problems. But just sometimes open these spaces for the rest of us, because the world really needs you. Thank you.
I made this.